She gave our house to her friend. I ended the wedding and left her speechless. The crystal glasses clinked at Riley's birthday celebration, but all I could hear was the sound of my future shattering. There stood my fiancée, Mia, casually handing over the deed to what should have been our home, the house I'd spent years saving for, to her perfect friend, Riley. Her words cut through the party's ambiance like a knife. A man needs his own foundation to rise up in life. I watched, frozen, as Riley embraced her, his lips brushing against her cheek in gratitude. The scene before me felt surreal, like watching someone else's nightmare. Without a word, I turned away. No house meant no wedding, simple arithmetic of the heart. "Hey, Ethan!" Tyler's voice boomed from across the room. "Where's my birthday present?" The room fell into an uncomfortable silence, dozens of eyes fixing on my empty hands. Whispers rippled through the crowd, accusations of freeloading, of coming just for the food and drinks. Mia's face flushed with embarrassment. "How could you be so inconsiderate?" she hissed. "Show up empty-handed? Go buy Tyler a Rolex or something to make up for it." The irony was suffocating. I'd been pulled straight from work to this celebration, only to witness her give away our future home. In the past, I might have fought back, argued, made a scene. But now, I felt hollow. "Who says I came empty-handed?" My voice was steady as I slipped off my promise ring, the one I'd had to beg her to buy, and placed it on Tyler's finger. "Here's your gift. May you and Mia find happiness." I turned to leave, but Mia's grip on my wrist stopped me. "This is ridiculous, Ethan," she protested. "Tyler's like a brother to me. What are you trying to prove?" Looking into her eyes, I replied softly, "It's not about proving anything. He simply deserves this ring more than I do now." Her laugh was cruel. "As if Tyler would want some cheap secondhand ring. He can throw it away for all I care." I shrugged. "Fine by me?" Her parting shot stung. "Don't come begging for another one later." The memory of our engagement surfaced unbidden. Her parents had demanded a dowry of 280,000 VN, making it clear nothing would be returned. I'd handed over my life savings without complaint. My only request? An engagement ring. But Mia had scoffed, questioning why a man would need such a thing. After a week-long standoff, she'd reluctantly agreed to buy matching rings for 2,000 yen. I'd treasured mine. Hers had mysteriously vanished within days. Standing on the sidewalk outside the hotel, I finally understood. Forced love is like borrowed happiness. Neither truly belongs to you. The bitter wind whipped around me, but I barely felt it. Nothing could be colder than the truth I discovered tonight. My phone buzzed. Mia. "Ethan, where are you? My stomach is killing me." Her voice was tight with pain. I replied mechanically, "Take some medicine. Why are you calling me?" For years, I would have dropped everything at Mia's call, rushing to her side like a loyal guardian angel. Now, I simply ended the call, my finger hovering over my contact list before landing on Leo's name. "Is that overseas marketing director position still available?" Leo's enthusiasm crackled through the phone. "Ethan, absolutely. Your drive and creativity are exactly what we need to expand our international market." His confidence in me felt like a lifeline. "I won't disappoint you," I promised, already planning my escape. Within an hour, I'd booked a flight for the following week. For the first time in years, I treated myself. A tailored charcoal suit I'd been admiring from afar. A quiet dinner at that upscale restaurant I'd always walked past. My salary was generous, but I'd lived like a monk, squirreling away every spare penny for our dream house. The irony wasn't lost on me. Just when that dream materialized, Mia had turned it to dust. The mall's closing announcements found me still wandering, lost in thought. By midnight, I was turning my key in the lock, only to be assaulted by pounding music and raucous laughter. The scene that greeted me was like a punch to the gut. Tyler and his entourage had transformed my living room into their personal playground. My carefully selected leather sofa, the one I'd researched for weeks, was smeared with cake cream. Empty bottles and food containers littered every surface I'd meticulously maintained. I flicked on the lights, watching their revelry screech to a halt. Their annoyed glances felt like matches thrown at a powder keg. "Get out," I managed, my voice eerily calm. Tyler swaggered over, waving the deed like a victory flag. "Memory problems, Ethan? Mia gave me this house. Or did that slip your mind?" His cronies' laughter echoed off the walls. "Yeah, Tyler's castle now. Better change those locks, Ethan. Wouldn't want any unwanted guests." In one swift motion, I snatched the deed from his grasp. "Read it carefully. See these names? Mia and Ethan. Not Tyler. Leave now, or I'm calling the police for trespassing." Tyler's confidence flickered, but only briefly. "Stop acting high and mighty. Mia's transferring ownership tomorrow anyway." My response was ice cold. "This house needs both owners' signatures for any transfer. I don't consent." Tyler's fingers flew across his phone, and minutes later, Mia burst through the door. He immediately launched into his performance. "Mia! Ethan's threatening us with trespassing charges." Mia's frown deepened as she pulled me aside, her voice low and urgent. "I gave this house to Tyler. You're making a scene. Let's go." I jerked away from her touch. "This house was bought with my money, Mia. What gives you the right to give it away?" Her face flushed with humiliation before hardening. "Oh, you want to talk about money?" Her voice rose sharply. "What about the $500,000 I lent your adoptive parents? Funny how you never mentioned that." The room fell silent. Tyler's crew exchanged shocked glances. "Man," someone whispered. "Talk about being a parasite." Their whispers turned into daggers. What kind of man lives off a woman's money? Mia must be a saint to put up with such a leech. Marrying someone like that is just asking for bad karma. Each word hammered at my chest, unleashing waves of self-doubt I'd spent years trying to suppress. The orphanage, the adoption, the constant feeling of being somehow less. When my adoptive parents discovered I was dating the daughter of a wealthy family, they'd immediately seen an opportunity. The $500,000 loan from Mia had become my invisible chain, a constant reminder of my place in her world. I'd thought Mia understood my struggles, but here she was, stripping away my dignity in front of strangers. With trembling hands, I pulled out the calculations I'd made during my solitary dinner. My voice remained steady, though my heart raced. I contributed $630,000 to this house. Subtract the $500,000 my adoptive parents borrowed. You owe me $130,000. After that, the house is yours. Mia's eyes widened as she scanned my notes. Disbelief etched across her features. "I thought you were different, Ethan, but you're just as petty as everyone else." A bitter laugh escaped my lips. "Since you're so generous with my house, surely $130,000 isn't too much to ask." Her fingers flew across her phone screen, anger making them clumsy as she transferred the amount. "Land office, 8 a.m. tomorrow?" I asked, watching the transaction complete. Mia's response came through clenched teeth. "Just wait, Ethan. You'll come crawling back." Tyler's smug voice chimed in. "We'll be there bright and early." In my hotel room later, I stared at the bank balance, $130,000. It felt like blood money. Then my phone buzzed with Tyler's voice message. My stomach turned as I pressed play. "Mia, what did you ever see in that poverty case?" Tyler's voice dripped with contempt. Then Mia's laughter, a sound I once loved, cut through me like glass. "Just having some fun. These poor students, always so proud despite barely affording meals. It's entertaining to play with them. But honestly, I'm tired of his constant fussing." The recording transported me back to sophomore year. My adoptive parents had refused to support my education, forcing me to juggle multiple jobs while barely eating. I remembered the dining hall, always choosing the cheapest options, counting every penny. Then came that day in gym class. The room had spun, the floor rushing up to meet me. When I came to, Mia was there, concern in her eyes as she and our classmates helped me to the clinic. After that, she became my guardian angel, or so I thought. Accidentally, adding money to my meal plan, sharing her lunch, always pushing the best portions my way until my health improved. How skillfully she'd played her role. Those memories tasted bitter now. Her confession of love, my initial hesitation, all part of her game. 5 years of my youth and every drop of love I'd given, wasted on an elaborate act. The next morning, I arrived early at the land office, deliberately masking my sleepless night. My new suit fit perfectly, each crease telling a story of transformation. When I stepped out of my car, I caught Mia's double take, her eyes widening slightly. Tyler, however, sneered. $2,600 for a suit? Burning through Mia's refund already? Mia's frown deepened. Since when did you start splurging? What happened to the frugal Ethan I knew? A calm smile played on my lips. First, that $130,000 was my money, not a gift. Second, I straightened my tie deliberately. I don't need anyone's permission to spend what's mine. I used to save every penny for our future, but now, no house, no partner. Why keep counting pennies? Tyler tugged at Mia's arm like an impatient child. Come on, let's get inside. I want to be first in line today. It's my lucky day. But Mia lingered, her eyes searching mine. Ethan, is there anything you want to say? Just wishing you both happiness, I replied smoothly. Hope you enjoy the house, Tyler. Mia's face darkened. Fine, don't regret this later. The property transfer proceeded without drama, Tyler clutching the deed like a trophy. As I turned to leave, Mia's voice stopped me. The bridal shop called yesterday. They want us to choose our wedding photos today. Her tone softened, almost teasing. Since you clearly dressed up to impress me today, I'll let you tag along. I turned back slowly, looking at her as if she'd lost her mind. Mia, you gave away our wedding house. What makes you think there's still going to be a wedding? Color drained from her face. What are you saying? I'm saying we're done. The wedding's off. Was I unclear? Are you insane? Her voice pitched higher. The wedding's next week. Everything's arranged. I let out a dry laugh. I'm just canceling a wedding. You gave away our house without warning. My request seems pretty reasonable in comparison. I glanced at Tyler. Besides, you've got a ready replacement. He's got the house and the ring. Might as well give him the bride, too. I'll always be here for you, Mia, Tyler declared, clutching the deed like a shield. Mia's voice hardened with practiced sincerity. Ethan, how many times must I tell you? Tyler's like my little brother. He's alone in this world, staying with relatives who barely acknowledge him. Without help, he might never afford his own place. As his big sister figure, I'm just looking out for him. Her words echoed hollowly. She'd often reminded me about Tyler's past. Orphaned young, dependent on distant relatives. She'd plead for my understanding, paint him as this tragic figure deserving of our compassion. My bitter laugh surprised even me. So Tyler's misfortune entitles him to everything? What about me, Mia? Wasn't I unfortunate too? What have you ever given me except empty promises? Her response came with practiced confidence. You have me, don't you? Isn't that enough? The arrogance in her tone made my stomach turn. I walked away without another word. That night, I announced our breakup on social media. The comments flooded in. College friends lamenting the end of our perfect love story, mourning the campus sweethearts who'd made it to wedding vows. If only they knew. If I hadn't heard those recordings, I might still believe in our fairy tale too. Mia's call came predictably. Who gave you the right to cancel our wedding unilaterally? Her voice trembled with controlled rage. Whether you cancel the wedding is your choice, I replied, ice in my voice. But I won't be there. Are you really throwing away 5 years over a house? She demanded repeatedly. Yes, just a house. She'd never understand. To her, it was just property, another asset in her wealthy world. To me, it represented everything. Security, belonging, a future I'd never had before. Fine, she finally conceded, her tone diplomatic. We'll buy another house. Just save for 2 more years for the down payment. How's that? The suggestion hit me like a slap. 2 years. I remembered every meal skipped, every threadbare shirt worn too long, every late night working extra shifts. I'd denied myself everything, sustained only by the dream of our home. Now she'd given it away with a casual wave of her hand to her little brother and expected me to start over. 2 more years of sacrifice? And then what? 30 years of mortgage payments? Another dream for her to dangle before me until someone more deserving came along? Was that my destiny? To be her eternal fool, forever dancing to her tune? Mia, that house was my dream, I said quietly. But I no longer want any dreams that include you. The call from my adoptive parents came moments after hanging up with Mia. Their accusations flew like arrows, each precisely aimed. The message was clear. With the wedding canceled, the $500,000 they'd borrowed from Mia was now my burden to bear. I wasn't surprised. They'd invested every penny in my brother's ventures the moment it landed in their account. I'd never expected to see that money again, but now it had one final purpose to serve. I'll come tomorrow, I told them. We'll discuss the details. That night, my phone lit up with Mia's messages. Hundreds of them, evolving from imperious commands to desperate pleas. I blocked her number without reading them all. Some stories don't deserve an ending. The next morning, I walked into my adoptive parents' house, agreement in hand. Their disdain was palpable, 3 pairs of eyes regarding me as an unwelcome intruder in their pristine home. My adoptive mother broke the heavy silence first. Ethan, you had everything set up perfectly. Marriage was within reach. What happened? I met their gaze steadily. They want $288,000 for the bride price, plus repayment of the $500,000 loan. Without both, there won't be a wedding. Mother's head shook like a metronome. Impossible! Do you know how much we've spent raising you? The food, the education? There's nothing left for a bride price. I swallowed a bitter laugh. Such bold-faced lies, yet she spoke them without hesitation. Father's fist met the table. Then forget the marriage. Plenty of fish in the sea. His tone shifted. But Mia's parents want their $500,000 back if there's no wedding. My brother's head snapped up from his game, panic flooding his features. No way. That money's tied up in investments with my friends. I can't get it back. I feigned distress. What options do we have? They'll report us for fraud if we don't pay, Father growled. Mother's voice rose indignantly. Fraud? After you've dated their daughter for years? Their hypocrisy made my skin crawl. Time to end this charade. There's another solution, I said carefully. I'll take on the entire $500,000 debt myself. Cut all ties with this family. If they report it, they can only come after me. The change in their expressions was immediate, like sunshine breaking through storm clouds. They practically fell over themselves agreeing to this perfect solution. They signed the severance agreement without even reading it. Stay for lunch, my mother said suddenly. I made plenty. Something in me, perhaps that eternal orphan's hope, made me agree. One last family meal. With their financial burden lifted, the house settled into its natural rhythm. Mother in the kitchen, father absorbed in his spy shows, brother lost in his video games. I was the only disruption in their perfect tableau. The bathroom door creaked open under my touch, revealing an empty space where my fold-up bed once stood. 2 bedrooms and a living room. That was our home's geography. 1 room for my parents, 1 for my brother. My space had been more fluid, First a proper bedroom, then after my brother's birth, a nomadic bed that migrated between living room and bathroom, searching for belonging like its occupant. Perhaps that's why Mia had seemed like salvation, the promise of finally belonging somewhere, of having walls that wouldn't shift beneath me. Mother had indeed prepared a feast, all my brother's favorites spread across the table like a culinary love letter. Not a single dish I liked, not even by accident. I chewed mechanically, tasting nothing, and fled that house one last time, feeling hollow. Mia appeared at the neighborhood gate like an apparition. She offered me a tissue, concern painted perfectly across her features. That's when I noticed the wetness on my cheeks, the cold tracks of tears I hadn't felt falling. "You're always like this after visiting them," she said softly. "Why do you keep coming back?" I dried my face, steadying myself. "Had to tell them about canceling our wedding." She froze. "I said we'd buy another house. Why can't you move past this?" "Because I don't love you anymore," I said, my voice empty. "Is that reason enough?" "No," she protested. "Your love for me couldn't just vanish overnight." Her phone's ring cut through our standoff, Tyler's name illuminating her screen. She hesitated before answering. "Tyler, I told you not to call so often." His voice came through, pained. "Mia, I fell down the stairs, twisted my ankle." The transformation in her voice was instant. "Where are you? I'm coming." She glanced at me apologetically through her car window. "Ethan, Tyler's hurt. I'll take him to the hospital and come right back." I smiled faintly. "Go ahead. Don't keep him waiting. Twisted ankles are painful." Relief flooded her face. "I'll be back soon. Wait for me." Her car disappeared into traffic like a shooting star. I'd seen this scene play out countless times before, but this time, I wouldn't be waiting for her return. The irony wasn't lost on me. Tyler could summon Mia with a single call, anywhere, anytime. Yet here I was, her fiancé, and she wouldn't come back to me. I remember Mia's accusation that I had stopped loving her suddenly, but she was wrong. Love doesn't vanish in an instant. It erodes, like a shoreline against relentless waves of waiting and disappointment. I found myself scrolling through Tyler's social media feed, each post a fresh wound. There was Mia, feeding him porridge with that gentle smile she used to reserve for me. Yesterday's update showed them house hunting. "A man only stands tall with a house," the caption read, followed by Mia's trademark, "feeling happy." Then came the Disney pictures, a dream trip she had always talked about with me. These posts had once sparked countless arguments between us. Now, I merely tapped like on each one, each click a small surrender. It was well past midnight when my phone finally lit up with her call. Her voice carried exhaustion, but no real remorse. "Ethan, I'm here to pick you up. Where are you?" "No need," I replied, already wrapped in hotel sheets. "I'm back." "You left without telling me?" The annoyance in her voice was palpable. "I've been running all over. Do you know how tired I am today?" A bitter laugh escaped me. "Mia, do you really think I'm that stupid? Look at the time. Why would I wait?" The memory surfaced unbidden. That hiking trip on our rare shared holiday. We had barely reached the halfway point when Tyler's call came. "Wait for me," she had said. So I did, like a fool, watching the sun arc across the sky and sink below the horizon. Deep down, I knew she wouldn't come, but something in me needed to prove it. When she finally remembered me, her first words were a scolding. "Ethan, are you an idiot? Standing there all day like some statue?" Then, softening, "Sorry, Ethan. I promise I won't leave you again. Your promises mean nothing anymore." The days that followed fell into a predictable pattern. Mia would call, wait outside my office, make grand gestures, until Tyler called. Then came the inevitable apology calls. This cycle continued right up to the day before our wedding, when she looked at me with those earnest eyes. Ethan, Tyler's being discharged today. He has no family. Only I can help him. But I promise, this is the last time. Once we're married, I'll keep my distance. She actually believed my recent indifference and the wedding cancellation were just another tantrum, that I'd show up on our wedding day like nothing had happened. I was done explaining. After she left, I quietly packed my bags. As fate would have it, I had a business trip scheduled. The perfect escape. The next morning, I met my colleagues at the airport, watching my phone light up with her messages. Ethan, the fleet's a no-show. Ethan, the driver said you didn't book the car. Ethan, it's our wedding day. Where are you? I sent her my location, a final courtesy, then boarded the plane and switched off my phone. Some waits are meant to end. There was a certain satisfaction in imagining Mia's panic on that wedding day, watching the minutes tick by at an empty venue. As my plane cut through cotton-white clouds, I felt the weight of years lifting from my shoulders. 6 months could change everything, and it did. I returned as the overseas marketing director, my success abroad a testament to what I could achieve without her shadow looming over me. The presentation to the board went smoothly. Excellent work, they said, and I felt accomplished, complete. But life has a way of coming full circle. As I stepped out of the corporate building into the crisp autumn air, there she was, Mia, a ghost from my past, waiting. She wasn't the woman I remembered. The vibrancy that once drew everyone to her had dimmed, replaced by something harder, more worn. Time had etched fine lines around her eyes, and her usually immaculate appearance showed signs of neglect. When our eyes met, she moved with desperate speed, wrapping her arms around me as if I might disappear again. Ethan, she breathed my name like a prayer. Where have you been these past 6 months? I've searched everywhere for you. I knew she had. The main office had kept me informed of her frequent visits, her increasingly desperate attempts to locate me. I'd instructed them to maintain my privacy, and they'd complied willingly. The story of how she'd given our wedding house to Tyler had spread through the office grapevine, turning even her former allies against her. Eventually, her visits had stopped, and I'd assumed she'd finally understood it was over. Looking at her now, I felt a strange detachment, as if observing a scene from someone else's life. My hands found her shoulders, firmly pushing her away. In the harsh daylight, I could see every detail of her face, and I wondered how I'd ever been so blind. My taste was questionable back then, I mused aloud, more to myself than to her. Loving someone like you to the point of losing myself, it was pathetic, really. The words came out cold, clinical, like discussing a failed business venture. Mia, what are you looking for? I thought I made everything clear months ago. Tears welled in her eyes, but she held them back. Ethan, let me take you somewhere. Once we're there, I know you'll forgive me. Her voice carried a certainty I hadn't expected. Sorry, I replied, checking my watch for effect. My time is valuable now. I don't have any to waste on you. I turned to leave, but Mia moved with surprising speed. Before I could react, she had grabbed my wrist and maneuvered me into the back seat of a waiting car, the door clicking locked behind me. My hand instinctively reached for my phone to call the police, but her next words stopped me. Ethan, please, she pleaded, her voice cracking. Just this one place. If you still can't forgive me after seeing it, I swear I'll never bother you again. Curiosity won out over anger. What could she possibly show me that would change anything? As we drove, the cityscape shifted from modern high-rises to familiar neighborhoods. My stomach tightened as I recognized the route. We were heading to our old wedding home. The building hadn't changed, still standing proud against the skyline. As we climbed the stairs, each step felt heavier than the last. Mia's hands trembled slightly as she unlocked the door, and I understood why the moment we stepped inside. The apartment was a time capsule of our past. The plain fabric sofas I'd chosen were back in place, their subtle gray tones exactly as I remembered. A fresh bouquet of tulips, my favorite flowers, though I'd never told her directly, sat in the crystal vase on the coffee table. Every ornament that Tyler and his friends had broken had been meticulously replaced, positioned exactly as they had been before. With shaking hands, Mia pulled out a bright red property certificate. As she opened it, I saw both our names clearly printed on the document, with a transfer date from 3 months ago. The implications slowly sank in. While I was building my new life abroad, she had been trying to rebuild the one we'd lost. The property certificate trembled in Mia's hands as she began her explanation, her voice carrying the weight of long-rehearsed words. "Ethan, I was wrong before," she started, her eyes searching mine for any hint of softening. "Tyler and we grew up together. After losing his parents so young, everyone around us, teachers, neighbors, family friends, they all impressed upon me the importance of protecting him, caring for him. Over time, it became more than responsibility. It became an obsession." She paused, composing herself. "But these past 6 months without you, they showed me the truth. You're the most important man in my life, Ethan. I love you. Taking back this house, setting it right again, it's my way of trying to end the conflict that started with it." Her words were eloquent, carefully chosen, the kind that would have once made my heart race and my resolve crumble. But that version of me, the one who hung on her every word, who waited endless hours on mountaintops, he was gone. In his place stood someone stronger, someone who had learned to stand alone. With deliberate slowness, I pulled out my own apartment key, letting it catch the light as I held it before her. The metal gleamed, a small but powerful symbol of my independence. "I don't need to rely on anyone anymore, Mia. I can achieve what I want on my own." I found myself speaking about the past 6 months, not to justify myself, but to declare my transformation. Breaking into a new market wasn't easy. There were nights I barely slept, days when success seemed impossible. But I pushed through. My salary doubled, and with that plus the $130,000 I had saved up, I managed to put a down payment on a 60-square-meter studio apartment. A small smile touched my lips as I continued. "It's not massive or in some premium location, but it's mine. Truly mine. Every square meter represents my hard work, my choices, my future." Mia stared at my keys as if they were a weapon pointed at her heart. Tears welled up in her eyes, and after what felt like an eternity, she whispered, "Ethan, is there really no chance for us anymore?" "No chance." The words came easily, without hesitation or regret. They carried the weight of certainty, of a decision long made and finally voiced. The tears spilled over then, tracking down her cheeks. I could see the moment she truly understood. Her careful recreation of our old home, the reclaimed property certificate, none of it mattered. My new apartment wasn't just a place to live. It was a declaration of independence, a physical manifestation of my growth beyond her. I turned away, feeling no compulsion to comfort her. Her tears were no longer my responsibility. But the day wasn't done with its confrontations. In the building's lobby, Tyler stood waiting, his face twisted with bitter anger. "Ethan," he spat my name like a curse. "You must be really pleased with yourself now. You think you've won?" I barely spared him a glance. This man who had once loomed so large in my life now seemed small, insignificant. I walked past him, but he wasn't finished. "Ethan, let me tell you something," he called after me, voice thick with malice. "Mia is having my baby. She'll belong to me for sure now." A smile crossed my face, not of pain or anger, but of genuine indifference. "I wish the 3 of you a happy and blissful family life," I said, meaning every word. Their drama no longer had the power to touch me. But life has a way of testing newfound strength. That same afternoon, my adoptive parents burst into my office, their faces etched with desperate worry. The story spilled out in rushed, pleading words. My brother had lost 500,000 yuan in a failed investment scheme, then fallen victim to scammers abroad. They'd already liquidated their savings and sold their old apartment, scraping together 700,000 yuan, but they were still 300,000 short. Their eyes fixed on me with the same expectation I'd once seen in Mia's, the assumption that I would sacrifice my own stability for others' mistakes. The irony wasn't lost on me. Having just broken free from one form of emotional manipulation, I now faced another. When my adoptive parents requested financial support using family obligation as leverage, I chose to seek legal help. They responded by sharing their version online, portraying me as an unappreciative adopted son who turned away when they needed help. Their social media posts had unexpected results when I shared our legal documents and my honest experiences growing up as their adopted child. The response was surprising and positive. Many others came forward sharing similar experiences of family pressure and conditional care. I received numerous messages from other adoptees who related to my story. Together, we created a supportive community, and my story became a source of encouragement. While we can't choose our beginnings or our family, I shared in a widely read update, we can shape our own future through determination and self-trust. My adoptive parents' attempts to seek money through family pressure didn't succeed under public awareness. They moved away from social media, the city, and my life. Later, despite their efforts to gather funds, my brother had already left the country with those who misled him. Losing both their biological son and their standing in society affected them deeply. Their declining mental health led to a tragic end. When I heard the news, I took a day for reflection. I made one final trip to our hometown to handle their final arrangements. Standing at their resting place, I felt neither joy nor guilt. Our individual choices had brought us to this point. 5 years passed like turning pages in a book. Each chapter brought new successes, culminating in my promotion to vice president and transfer back to headquarters. Life had settled into a comfortable rhythm until a company charity event for children with heart disease brought an unexpected ghost from my past. Mia stood in the queue of applicants, clutching a frail boy who seemed more shadow than child. Through whispered conversations and sympathetic colleagues, I learned the full story. Tyler had drugged her, leading to an unplanned pregnancy and rushed marriage. The drugs had affected the fetus, resulting in severe cardiac complications. They burned through their savings on medical bills before Tyler finally showed his true colors and abandoned them. The irony wasn't lost on me. The woman who once held my heart now stood before me, seeking help for her son's damaged one. Given our history, I quietly spoke to the selection committee. Her application was approved without fanfare. As I left in my company car after the event, I saw Mia running after me, struggling to keep up while carrying her sick child. She called out her thanks, but I merely waved, not even rolling down the window. The gesture wasn't cruel, it was simply all I had to give. Later, over drinks, a colleague asked why I hadn't seized the opportunity for revenge. You could have made her grovel, they suggested. Made her pay for what she did to you. I smiled, swirling the whiskey in my glass. Revenge implies she still holds power over my emotions, I explained. Look at where we started. Same social circle, similar prospects, shared dreams. Now, I'm at the apex of my career, making decisions that affect thousands. She's just another face in the crowd, dependent on my charity. That reality cuts deeper than any revenge I could devise. The last rays of sunset painted the city skyline in shades of gold and purple. From my office window, I could see the building where our wedding home once stood, now dwarfed by newer developments. Time, I had learned, was the most elegant architect of justice. It had taken everything Mia once held dear, her youth, her choices, her independence, while giving me everything I never knew I wanted: strength, success, and most importantly, freedom from the weight of waiting for someone who would never truly come.